know when everyone's ready. Good? You good? Okay, this press conference is being called in regards to the skeleton remains found last Friday. These remains have been positively identified as Jilly Tedero, who would have been 46 years of age. Jilly had been reported missing since December of 2020. The identification process was completed by a forensic odontologist and anthropologist through body imaging yesterday. After an autopsy and examination, the manner of death, I am ruling a homicide. I am not going to elaborate as to the cause of death at this time, other than to say that it was homicidal violence. I've been in contact with Jilly's family, who is very grateful that she has been found, and they can start the healing and grieving process. I would like to commend the efforts of my death investigative team. This was a very complex and time-consuming investigation. To get Jilly positively identified and the manner of death within 5 days is very commendable. This was a team effort by the District Attorney's Office and the Johnstown Police Department. And Greg and I were assisted at the scene by a multitude of different agencies. Does anybody have any questions for me before I turn it over to the DA? Yes, sir.
The area that you found her body, was it hard, like, retrieving?
Yes, the body was located in the basement of a residence on Franklin Street. In the back section, she was buried approximately 2 to 3 feet down underground in dirt.
Was there any evidence that the remains had been moved from one location to another, or was that the original place you believe it was?
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that, because this is obviously is a still ongoing investigation, and I do not want to hamper anything with the investigation of the DA's office and law enforcement, obviously.
Is it, can you speak to how long she may have been there after she was reported missing?
Again, the complete report has not been finalized yet, and that information will be forthcoming by the anthropologist.
You had an anthropology team. What exactly is that team?
The anthropology team is a very unique team that they come out to scenes and assist the coroner or medical examiner's offices across the Commonwealth when skeleton or human remains are found. And again, we only have one opportunity to conduct that death investigation properly. So it's very imperative that, we utilize our expert resources when we're out in the field. So, and again, like I said, this was a very extensive investigation. The scene had to be completely mapped properly, documented, photographed, and, a lot of dirt had to be sifted through.
You talk about getting an identification in 5 days. How difficult is it to identify a body in these circumstances?
There are some individuals that never get positively identified. And again, to complete this extensive process is very, very commendable to the agencies that have been working this case. And again, it's just not all of the death investigators team. The detective bureau at Johnstown is second to none, and they are just fabulous at what they do, and the outstanding working relationship that my office has with the district attorney's office, and the collaboration of information and investigative skills are top-notch. Anything else before I turn it over to Greg? Okay.
Thanks, Jeff. Oh, sorry. Just real quick, touching on the timeline of the identification. Very amazed, frankly, at how quickly she was identified. We had some medical records that were obtained that were extremely instrumental, if I understand correctly, in speaking with Coroner Lees. Very, very amazed and impressed at the skill of the team. This remains an active death investigation, okay? With the positive identification last night, Jilly's case went from a missing person to a homicide. Obviously, or unfortunately, frankly, we're not exactly surprised by that. But again, the nature of the investigation has shifted to a homicide. There are still a couple of things to be done now with the information that we received as a result of the initial findings from that Coroner Lees shared with us late yesterday afternoon, early evening. Just like when we got the information that there would be possibly a body in that basement, there's a flurry of activity going on behind the scenes. Nothing is more important to us at this point than justice for Jilly, and we recognize that this case has garnered a lot of attention and will continue to garner a lot of attention. Our obligations as prosecutors, we're limited obviously in some of the things we can say publicly, and we're also don't want to do anything that hampers a prosecution in this case. We hope that the public can understand that. I know it's difficult, and to be honest with you, there are an awful lot of things that I want to say that I cannot and I will not, because we need to honor Jilly and get justice for her. Standing to my right is Assistant District Attorney Jessica Arndt, who she's standing up here because she deserves to be, because she has put a ton of time and effort into Jilly's case, as has ADA Trip Crilly, who was unable to be present this morning. A lot of people cared very deeply about finding her. JPD, Cambria County Detective Bureau, the DA's office, the coroner's office, law enforcement entities from across the state. You want to talk about a truly bittersweet day on Friday. We're relieved that we finally found her, but we're incredibly sad that our fears were accurate. Again, this is an active investigation. Charges are not filed as of now. We do anticipate charges in the near future. At that point, we'll be able to provide a little more information and a little more detail. And I think a lot of questions that the public and the media on behalf of the public has. I can say I knew Jilly on a first-name basis, as did Jess, as did JPD, as did members of the County Detective Bureau. Jilly had a personal cell phone number of County Detective DeMarco, and they would communicate regularly at any time of the day. She knew she could call. We really did not want to see today. Jilly had a tough life, really tough life. We all knew her really through no fault of her own, certainly through no fault of her own. This one hurts. It truly does. And, you know, gone are the days where, as law enforcement, you're supposed to just act tough and that nothing bothers you. This one hurts. It truly does. But we're not going to let that affect our decisions. We're not going to let that prevent us from doing our jobs to get Jilly the justice that she deserves. And we will continue to work towards that. I can elaborate a little more on some of the background meaning of that, I think, whenever charges are filed. I can elaborate a little more on that. But I would be very remiss if I didn't acknowledge that law enforcement, you don't always get an opportunity to try to prevent certain things. It's rare. Fair enough, Detective?
Very fair.
I'm a retired sports official, and there's something in that called preventative officiating, where you try to head something off. And in law enforcement, you get those opportunities sometimes. And sometimes, despite your best efforts, you still end up dealing with what we're dealing with today. Any questions?
Is there a belief that her body was at the home when it was first searched a couple years back?
That's a little bit of speculation. You know, I know one of the questions I think that the public certainly has, and we understand, is, you know, it's not a secret that we were there before. The details, what led us there last week, that's in a sealed search warrant. I can't go into a lot of details about that, but we had, for the first time, we had very specific information relative to where a body would be located. Obviously, when we went there, we expected it to be Jilly. Actually, on scene, when remains were first located, usually when we don't know the identity, we refer to it more as the remains. I mean, we're all on scene referring it to as her and she. That's truly who we thought it would be. You know, and in speaking last Friday at the scene, you know, we were very careful with our words. You know, it really was speculation at the time that it would be her. And so publicly it's inappropriate to comment on that at that point. But we weren't surprised. And to be perfectly honest, our case, as a result of the information that we got on Friday, our case is going to be stronger as a result of that. Like lots of things in life, sometimes patience pays off. You know, pending the final report, it's evident that Jilly had been deceased for quite a while. What we knew about Jilly is she would have had a hard time shortly after she went missing surviving, based on some of the information that we know. And a detailed investigation that was done into her disappearance and continued to be done. I don't believe a couple of weeks has gone by in the last, since she went missing, that we didn't talk about this case. Among prosecutors, certainly with the detectives, among all the entities. I don't even know, I could say a week went by without discussing this case. The case finding her switched the case from a missing person to a homicide. The autopsy results switched it to a homicide. It went from a missing person to a suspicious death to a homicide. The reality is, finding her the way we did, when we did, with the information that we had, makes our case stronger. Significantly stronger, I would say. It shifts kind of from a purely circumstantial type of a situation to a more direct evidence type of a situation. And that's invaluable in a prosecution. Did that answer your question? Ish. Okay.
What comes next in an investigation under these circumstances?
Sure. In general, speaking specifically to this, there's a couple of interviews that need to be done by JPD based on some information that we've received and uncovered. Other than that, in this instance, there's not a whole lot else unless something new were to come to light as a result of some interviews. Again, this has been extensively investigated to this point. And investigated very well, I would add.
These remains are found in the home, Kernville home of Brian Giles, correct?
Correct.
He was convicted last week with the homicide of his former wife, and now this comes to light. Can you talk about just what? Sure, there's a lot of things you can't talk about, but what can you talk about regarding these things that people are just putting together in their head and wondering how another case could affect sentencing or
Sure. Yeah, I think I can address that more at a point when charges will be filed. I think that'd be a little more appropriate at that point. I certainly appreciate the question. Certainly not surprised by the question. I don't want to put the cart before the horse a little bit, so to speak. I think it's a little more appropriate just a little down the line. And generally speaking, we typically do not hold press conferences at the filing of charges a lot of times, if you've noticed, given the public interest in Jilly. We do intend to have a press conference where we can talk a little more about some things. Okay? I do appreciate the question, though.
how many suspects do you have for this case?
One. That probably tells you a lot. Yeah. Anything else?
You talk about the public interest and all that. I guess what would your message be to the public and, now that this has kind of been almost 4 years kind of in the waiting, I suppose?
Sure. I mean, to the public, I think we would all say, Again, our case got stronger with finding her in the manner that we did. That doesn't mean that we're really frankly satisfied with how long it took to find her. But it's hard to feel any type of true satisfaction because we're finding a human being that has been murdered, certainly for no reason, right? I will say in general terms, if you know someone that's in any type of a bad relationship or in any type of, you see something relative to anyone and you suspect anything bad is happening to them, we're sort of taught sometimes to mind our own business. There's times though when if you see something relative to someone else, make it your business or make it law enforcement's business, frankly. That's our job. Just if you ever see anyone in any type of need, if you can't personally help them, reach out to law enforcement. We know how to get them to services. We know how to get them to help to try to prevent tragedies as best that we can. Jilly was really a nice person. She really was. I don't think she always liked some of the things I had to say to her, to be perfectly honest with you, or what Jess had to say to her. But we were coming from a good place, trying to help her. She was a good person, as I could tell.
Do you have any specific anecdotes you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think I'll touch on some of those anecdotes, I think, the next time we talk. But I mean, I will say, she sat at the conference table in my office not long before she went missing, actually. That was definitely one of the times she didn't necessarily like what I was saying, to be honest. But yeah, she sat at my conference table. It hit close. This one hits a little different. I mean, every homicide is a tragedy at the end of the day, right? When the life is gone, the life is gone. This one's just a little different. And I think, talking beforehand, I mean, Detective Christ and I were talking about that. And we talked a lot about that on Friday, everyone that was there. And have to thank all the entities that came out Friday. It was unbelievable. Within hours of getting the information that we got, we had a sealed search warrant. We had the anthropology team coming from Erie. Box 11 provided assistance for the first time to law enforcement, as I found out, and that was amazing. It's amazing when you're there all day and what a bottle of water, a cup of coffee, and a snack cake can really do. We all shared some pizza together. It was a little bit of comfort in that situation. Kind of goes a long way. So Box 11, they're a local startup, nonprofit, all volunteers to help first responders. Really appreciate what they had to do. And Jeff's team and Jeff's contacts, I mean, less than 24 hours after being told we would find a body buried where that body was located. We had a cadaver dog come out and confirm. We had a team that was specifically trained and knows how to exhume that body without disturbing it and with preserving evidence. I mean, that's something that law enforcement, we don't have training on that. That's such a specialized thing. And to be able to pick up the phone, call Jeff, and 2 hours later, hey, they're going to be there at 8. Let's meet at 8:30, and we're going to be at the scene by 9:15. That's unbelievable. And that's the first step in ensuring justice for Jilly, and including treating her remains with the utmost respect, which she deserves. She wasn't always treated by the people in her life with the utmost respect when she was alive. But in death, she's being treated with the utmost respect. All right. Yes, sir.
Detective Chris, how much time did you guys put in looking for Jilly?
Well, like District Attorney Nebar advised, there wasn't a week that went by that we didn't spend time working this case. Between the whole Detective Bureau at JPD, we'd spent numerous, I couldn't even calculate the amount of hours we spent on this. And again, we wouldn't have been able to do this by ourselves without the assistance of our prosecution team with Jess Arndt and ADA Tripp. But it's countless hours. And again, if you know somebody that's in a bad situation, spouse, could be even a husband or wife, because she's female, doesn't matter, please contact us. There's help out there. We'll do everything in our power to help. And we did that with Jilly. And again, it's just the outstanding team with the coroner's office and Mercyhurst University. We just, again, it's a sad moment, but also we're able to put her to rest peacefully, and give her what she finally deserves. So.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Jess, how hard was it to see the body?
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer. I think when we were notified on Friday that there was in fact human remains found, it's a wave of emotions. Immediately I felt a sense of relief, like a huge weight that had been sitting there for 3.5 years had been lifted. But then to see the remains of a person who struggled in her life to be treated with dignity, and who I know did not feel the worth that she truly had during her lifetime. To see those remains, I don't know that I can articulate how that feels. I just wish that Jilly could have seen in her lifetime the amount of people who rallied together, who made a lot of sacrifices to ensure that she was found and treated with the dignity that she deserved. I wish she could have seen how many people care. I see a lot of public response to this case and to the finding of her remains. I wish she would have known how many people cared and how many people care now. So to answer your question, it's just been a roller coaster of emotions, personally and also professionally. But at the end of the day, we remain committed in the district attorney's office, and I think I speak on behalf of law enforcement, to doing the best job that we possibly can to get justice for Jilly, for her family, and to do so with professionalism. There's a lot of passion involved in this, and I remain committed to holding the person accountable who did this to her.
Anything else?
Will the body or anything be given, preserved, or anything for the family or anything like that?
The body is still currently at Mercyhurst University. And again, there's still some examinations that are to be completed. Once that is done, with my office in conjunction with the district attorney, when we feel that she can be released to a funeral home, that will happen. You know, and again, I've been in contact with the family, and yeah, we're gonna go from there. You know, there's nothing worse in life than to lose a loved one, and you know, it's as everybody has said, it's a bittersweet moment. But at least this family has some closure now, and on my end, that's what's important. So, anything else? Greg? Okay, thank you very much.